Get in on the action this season with Underdog's Pick'em game. Select higher or lower between 2 and 8 players and compete for up to 325 times your entry. Use code DIRECTOR when signing up to receive up to $1,000 in bonus cash and a free pick. Yo to Bolt fam, it's the Director. Chargers fans, some fun stories coming out of a mandatory minicamp this week, man. There's some juicy details we're going to be going over in today's video, man. I don't know. There's, of course, going to be speculation all over the place when it comes to this part of the offseason. You know, mandatory minicamp OTAs, training camp even then. You know, are going to get very excited about the days to come as Chargers fans. But this year, dude, it feels different, right? It feels like there really has been this huge culture shift over the course of the last year with Jim Harbaugh. It feels like it's finally really, you know, planted roots, laid a foundation. Now we're starting to build. We're building on top of what was started last year, and it's looking really good, man. From the roster construction to some of these players individually, there's some fun things to look forward to as Chargers fans as we get into mandatory minicamp, which has a lot of, you know, looks behind, you know, the curtain, a look through the window of what could actually be coming up in training camp soon that we're going to be going over. So before we do get things started, man, shout out to the sponsor, Underdog. Use code DIRECTOR to receive up to $1,000 in bonus cash. Newcomers take advantage of the offer on screen. It's a great way to support my platform while having some fun along the way. It really helps in the off season too. Go have some fun out there on Underdog, man. The best way to enjoy sports online. Before we do kick off, hit us up with a like and sub if you do enjoy this Chargers content. Small amount of time you guys take to hit the like, sub, and bell notification helps me out a lot. We'll catch you guys in there. Lights, camera. Oh, man.
Action!
Who's got it better than us?
Into the end zone, Charger fans are witnesses to history!
You know what's hilarious? I said, oh, man, right before because, dude, like, okay, I promise everybody, it's allergies, okay? No more allegations of Director on Twitter. It's getting out of hands. What if my mom sees it? Huh? Let's jump into the first talking point of training camp. It's getting everybody pretty excited, man. Huge storyline over the course of the offseason has been what's going on with Rashan Slater, right? Rashan Slater, of course, there's some contract stuff that needs to be taken care of, right? We got to get this man extended. Of course, there are talks about him maybe holding in and not participating, and that pretty much has been wiped off the table at this point. He did show up to mandatory minicamp. He was in media day as well. I think that was the day prior, where everybody suits up in their jerseys and their uniforms, and they go out there and they shoot those promo stuff, those promo bits for social media, which look pretty cool. Can't wait to get my hands on that for our Chargers, you know, hype video that we do annually here on the channel. But that really does clarify a few things for me as a Chargers fan. Seeing Rashan Slater back in the building. For one, negotiations, to be clear, in my opinion, right, are still ongoing. So it hasn't been, you know, completely solidified at this point. There's not, you know, a definitive, you know, number there and a contract signed. But by the looks of it, it's just a matter of time. You know what I mean? And historically, the Chargers, they like to get stuff like this done in early July, late June. We're getting to that point where I do think you're going to see Rashan Slater become the highest paid tackle in NFL football. It's going to be well worth the money. And we can go ahead and put all of our worries and stresses to bed as to whether or not we're going to have a left tackle this season. Obviously, Rashan Slater is here to play. He's looking really, really good out there in minicamp so far. As a matter of fact, the whole offensive line looking really interesting, man. I'm starting to believe. This is something that I posted on social media even just yesterday. There's a lot of experimentation going on the offensive line, mainly revolving around this rotation between Zion Johnson and Bradley Bozeman at center and guard, right? And there's a lot to unpack here because when taking a look at Zion Johnson and Bozeman, you have two guys that are changing their native positions, right? And that's something that it's hard to do. It's hard to prove that you're playing somewhere that you get way less snaps than somewhere that, you know, your bread and butter, right? But for the case of Zion Johnson, he keeps getting praised for what he's accomplished in the offseason in terms of his work. Obviously, he's one of the hardest working players on the team, and he's a very smart dude. And a lot of this does push a positive spin on his move to center. If he's able to maintain a voice of leadership, confidence, and intelligence that it takes to communicate between him and Justin Herbert, we may have something here. Not to say that Bozeman isn't. I think Bozeman's a very sharp dude. The level of play is maybe something that we can, talk a little bit of, ups and downs with. But if Zion Johnson really grabs onto this role, I don't know. The reason I said this is because I am starting to believe. I am starting to see something where, he's getting a significant amount of work in the offseason. You're seeing snaps in important moments. Like mandatory minicamp is an important time. You only get so much time in the NFL in the offseason to really, work in your ideas, your concepts, the things that you're actually trying to emphasize in the season. You want to take advantage of every single second that you're out there on the field. Just like we've seen with Jim Harbaugh in years past. Again, you're only allowed so much time with your players. He likes to do things a certain way, and this kind of does tell us the seriousness behind the idea of moving Zion Johnson is very real. And I can't tell you if we're seeing any huge uptick in play, if we're seeing, signs of maybe Zion's going to be the starter come, the training camp or the actual season, but they're putting in the work. They're putting in the time. They're spending this resource that is time on this idea, and they're giving it a very, very good shot. So keep that in mind, man. Right now we're seeing from left to right, Slater, Bozeman, Zion, Becton, and Alt. All right, so that's kind of the line that we're working with. And for those of you guys asking about Andre James, he does continue to get work with the second team. Sometimes he's being played at guard with the third team. I do expect that battle to continue heating up. I think we're going to see more from James as we get closer to training camp. But right now, the center battle looks like it's between Zion and Bozeman, which is very fair, right? And from what we heard from Coach Harbaugh, a decision is likely going to be made around 10 days or so into training camp, and that's probably where you're going to see the guy stick to the position and get all the reps and get ready for the actual season. All right, something very exciting though, guys. Something that, again, got me excited to make this video today. That it's a small little blip, a small little excerpt that we've seen in different articles and different whispers online, but one player that's really starting to get a little bit of momentum and catch a little bit of attention is Oronde Gadsden. Our tight end out of Syracuse. Was it the 5th round that we drafted him? Definitely very exciting to think what Oronde Gadsden could be with this team. And we're seeing some chemistry with him and Justin Herbert very early. That's probably the biggest thing that gets us excited, the chemistry between him and big Justin Herbert. Herbert and Gadsden connected on a huge wheel route in, I think, the first day of minicamp. And that gave us a great look at Gadsden's unique skill set and what may potentially happen when you put him on the field with Justin Herbert. Justin Herbert's the kind of quarterback that likes to spread the ball around. He wants to find the open guy. He can get attached to a number one target just because they're open a lot, like Keenan Allen and now Ladd McConkey. But for the most part, if you're open, you're going to get the ball. And we saw that with Oronde Gadsden. His smooth execution and burst definitely drew Herbert's attention, and they connected on a huge play. I don't know, man. There's a chance. And I'm very reserved when it comes to tight ends coming out of the draft. It's been a little different recently. You have seen more success out of the position right away. But historically, it takes some time for a tight end to kind of get their footing in the pros. But I'm going to say it anyway. I think there's a chance that Gadsden makes an impact early in his rookie year. And that's very exciting to think about, man. Just look at this guy. Look at this photo. He's a giant human being. Great catch radius. I think I did see an interview with Will Dissly talking about Gadsden and how excited he is for him to potentially grow with the team. Man, this could be one of those picks, man. Our guy, Dan Wolkenstein, the Chargers Unleashed, man. Just watch out. He might be the one who have called this way early from the 3-point line, from half court. We got Dan calling a shot on Gaston, and it looks like there's a chance, at least a spark, of him being something in his rookie year, which would be very exciting. And something doesn't have to amount to like 1,000 yards or anything like that. Absolutely not. A couple hundred yards, some flashes in the pan. Give us that, Donald Parham kind of involvement in his first year, and I'm going to be very excited about what he could become in the future. Now, talking about maybe the most important aspect of this video, the culture. We kind of hinted at it a little bit earlier in one of the segments, but I really do think it does stem from the leadership that this team has seen from very many different positions all over the roster. As a matter of fact, Coach Harbaugh did point out 9 unique players that have a special work ethic that he calls his Elite 9. It was Herbert, Derwin, and Mack, and Slater, Zion, McConkey, missing a few, Alt, Henley, and Tooley. Okay, those 9 guys are the dudes that Coach Harbaugh says, hey, be like this guy, work like this guy. This guy is here, first in the building, last to leave. And that has an effect. It has a very real effect in a team setting. I know a lot of people, whether, coworkers that are stepping up or family members that are, achieving their goals, like when you're around people like that, it unearths something inside you to take that next step, to push a little further. And you're seeing that. And of course, you see that with a lot of these guys year in and year out, but you're seeing that even more as the Jim Harbaugh effect takes place. Here, we'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute, but more specifically, Herbert and Khalil Mack. We heard some talk from Jesse Minter saying, man, these guys are special. We hope one day everybody gets to play with or at least practice with guys like Khalil Mack, right? The people are standing or showing up in droves. Players are showing up. There was a quote by Jesse Minter, I'm going to botch it, but he said something about a random Thursday in March that he showed up and the place was packed. They could have ran, all sorts of off-season, drills because of how many people were in the building on some random day because, Khalil Mack and these guys. Everybody's showing up. And these players are special. Their presence are special, and everyone should get a chance to work with these guys, especially guys like Khalil Mack, dude. You hear so much about his signing and how important it was, and it's because of days like this, because of mini camp and parts of the offseason like this, where you want guys to show up and be around players that will elevate them. That's Khalil Mack and Justin Herbert and these guys. Another one of these players, Derwin James, great example of those work ethic guys, those leaders. And one of those players that's a massive impact coming into the season. Now, last year, of course, expectations are always high for Derwin. For a majority of Derwin James' career, he has been an absolute beast. And we saw a different version of that beast last year in the Jesse Minter system. Now we're going to see year 2 of Derwin James in this system. And year 2 is such an important theme in this video because it again, like we said, the foundation is built. Let's continue building on top of it, seeing how high we can get. And James himself even mentioned that year 2 is going to be a special year in Minter's system. Minter's system was awesome. First year, Chargers, able to take the crown as the highest, or I should say the top scoring defense in the NFL, which is certainly not an easy thing to do. And Derwin James is very excited for, what more they're going to be able to build up upon it. He also praised Elijah Molden for freeing him up. He says he's a very special player, very happy he's back on the roster, that he makes everybody better. That is awesome. And being able to free up Derwin James, man, that's going to be huge. This is something we talked a lot about in the Brandon Staley days. We're like, oh, man, at least he's a defensive-minded guy. We're going to see Derwin unleashed. Now it's actually for real. Like, now we're seeing it. It worked last year. He mentioned last year was more experimental, and this year we're going to start to see the whole idea more honed on, right? More built on and polished. Coach Harbaugh said that a lot, polished. He wants these guys polished, right? I do think that you're going to see that this year. Expect more of Derwin James in the slot. He defended beautifully from the slot yesterday, by the way, man. When he's that nickel back, like, watch out. His versatility is off the charts. So expect more freedom from him. You got guys back there like Molden and Tony Jefferson, even. These guys really going to help Derwin James build on that year 2 in the Jesse Minter system. What about some of the receivers? You guys ask a lot about this, and I think it's because it was one of the positions that maybe was less solidified coming into the season. And I have a very, optimistic view of this. For number one, just kind of a quick blurb here. I don't know where he's going to end up. Maybe the practice squad, maybe depth, who knows. But Willie Snead was part of the veteran tryouts for the Chargers in mini camp yesterday. Coach Roman said pick his brain. He's here to help. But more so, it put a light on the receiver position for me that made me feel a little bit, more at ease. And I feel more at ease every single time, we see this unit go out there with Justin Herbert, especially now that you have a run game behind them. Now, to no surprise, McConkey had another great day. You can expect Lad McConkey to be the dude every single week in practice. He had some huge plays on third downs, major catch, on a pass from Justin Herbert and play action. Like, we know McConkey is the dude. Outside of that, you saw some nice plays from Darius Davis. There's some depth guys. Jalen Johnson, I think, had a pretty big day too. And then working in. I love the way that the Chargers are doing this. Trey Harris, KLS, Keandre Lambert-Smith. These guys also, getting smoothed into, reps maybe with the ones. Trey Harris got limited work with Justin Herbert, but these guys are getting up to speed as rookies. And that, man, dude, talk about options. There's options all over this roster as you are starting to see solidified talent at receiver like McConkey really step into place and be that building stone. Now, we are going to say, Quentin Johnston had an up and down day. A few really nice catches, but also there were some drops that made an appearance once again. I think one in particular. And again, we're still very much so rooting for Quentin Johnston, but that is going to definitely cause some panic attacks throughout the fandom. We want to see those cleaned up. But for the most part, if you were to take a wide perspective look at Johnston so far in the offseason, it's been much better than not. All right. He's been, again, very much so praised by the coaches, and I expect to see more out of him in day two as we are filming today during day two of OTAs. Of minicamp. I do expect to hear more about Quentin Johnston taking another step. Okay. Once again, too, I won't mention too much because it's pretty much the same thing as last time, but I wanted to emphasize on it even more because it's another point that keeps getting driven home by Greg Roman. Najee Harris is a leader. He's a special player. Coach Roman, very impressed by him. Okay. He's praising his work ethic especially, which is very cool. Like I said in my last video, Najee is in a situation where he was the guy. He's got this opportunity to be number one, running back for the Los Angeles Chargers in a run-first offense, as a top free agent option in the offseason this year. To all of a sudden, now you got this first-round rookie in the mix, and he's still going out there, being a leader, putting in the work, and that to me is very impressive. I'm impressed by that. I like that a lot. But even as a player, Roman was, again, surprised by his movement, his agility at his size, which is something interesting to me because I was at training camp last year, and I remember being very impressed by Gus Edwards in that same way. I was like, man, this Gus Edwards guy, he's huge, massive, and he can run, he can catch, he moves like a big guy that big shouldn't, be able to move. And if, with the exposure to Gus Edwards, and this particular compliment being handed out by Roman, I mean, there must be something special here in Najee Harris to look forward to this season. So, exciting stuff. Lastly, the DBs look awesome. We're starting to see the band get back together. I know Cam Hart was back out there. We're getting a better look at the different looks that you're going to see in the Minter system out here that he's going to be throwing out at DB. When Derwin is in the slot, you're going to see a lot of Alohi Gilman, Tony Jefferson, Elijah Molden up top, and Tarheeb and Jackson played a lot on the outside in those reps, right? With the second team, we saw a lot of St. Juste and Hart on the outside, but honestly, you're going to see a little bit of everything on game day, right? In the slot, you're going to see, Tarheeb still. You're going to see Derwin James. You're probably going to see Elijah Molden as well. You're going to see Hart on the outside and Jackson. And it's good to get all these guys in rotation once again because you're starting to really see the strengths and weaknesses of each one of these players. And Minter, of all people, is going to know what to do with them. All right, so DB's looking great. We needed to see a step forward in there because it's another position where we're like, do we have the guys? I feel like we're in good hands this season. And finally, in support of year two, Coach Herb, year two, Ben Herbert. I've been hearing a lot of stuff behind the, maybe not behind the scenes, but maybe not in the front of everybody's conversations, right? Of like everyone's excited about the rookies and this and that, but you're hearing pretty consistently throughout a lot of these interviews and stuff about Coach Herbert in his second season, right? A lot of talk about the excitement of year two with these players having experienced what it is to be in this program with Ben Herbert. Many players last year were probably very shocked. You know, it was a shock going into that environment, right? You see a lot and you hear a lot about the Michigan program, how brutal it was. And I'm sure there was a lot of talk from the players, but just, man, how hard it was to kind of get into that groove. I forget who was saying it, but they're saying now in year two, we're more prepared for it. We're ready for it. We're expecting it. We're more conditioned for it. And the players are ready. They're there. And you're seeing a noticeable change throughout the weight room, throughout that whole program, and make them harder to break, this and that. That's awesome. And this part of Jim Harbaugh's, staff and his team building, so important. And when we talk about year two improvement, this is a pretty big one. Like conditioning and all that kind of stuff, like that over time and with more exposure yields better results. So I'm excited to see what comes out of that, man. We'll have to keep an eye, again, knock on wood, and hopefully everybody's okay. Injuries happen, but the harder you see a lot of the dividends and the fruits of this labor in the regular season in terms of their strength, endurance, and sustainability. I'm excited, man. I'm very excited. And lastly, Coach Harbaugh year two. The whole kind of, wrapping up, putting a ribbon on this and getting excited. I'm very excited to be done with the video so I can go start looking into some of the stuff that's happening in day two of minicamp. The culture is built. The Harbaugh culture is here. This is something we talked so much about last year in wanting and anticipating that we needed some form of identity. We needed some form of culture, and we're seeing it. The individual leaders, the Elite Nine, like we're talking about, right? The expectation to play to the level of these huge caliber players. The little rituals they do, like the pants and the patches that they're putting on him. Now I don't know if you guys have seen. They put patches almost like a general. I think he was mentioning, right, when you see all those different accolades of their careers on them as a I don't know, a sense of pride, accomplishment. It really does bring a form of identity to the Chargers that we've not yet seen. And like we've said this entire video, that with the foundation being laid, now we're starting to build on top of it, which is very exciting. And you're seeing so much of that this year. The players are in it. They're ready. They're prepared. And it's something almost of an honor to be a part of, I have to imagine, for these players to really step into that environment and thrive. All right. As we get prepared for day two of minicamp, I want to let you guys know a couple of the players that are on my radar that I'm going to be keeping a very close eye on. Of course, it's kind of that way for everybody. You cast a really wide net. You want to see how everybody's doing. But some of the players in particular that I'll be taking a look at in the second half of minicamp, Junior Colson, a player that I haven't heard too much from so far. I want to see a big step up from him this year. I'm expecting a big jump, considering how huge of a jump Dan Henley had. He was listed as one of the Elite Nine by Jim Harbaugh. He really didn't do much in his rookie year. I don't remember if he was hurt or if he just kind of took a back seat. Same thing with Junior Colson this season. I expect to see that jump. Tier Tart, also stepping into very big shoes. Poona Ford was awesome last year. I think Tart is the new Poona Ford. I'm going to be keeping my eye on him. Obviously, the rookie receivers, including now Oronde Gadsden, I'm going to be keeping a very close eye on, because that position battle of wide receiver is going to be maybe one of the most interesting this offseason. And then finally, there's no player I'm going to have my eye on more than Omari and Hampton, who I think is going to be just a massive part of this team's identity going forward. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining me. This has been The Director. If you like what you saw here, hit us up with a like and sub on your way up. Please leave me in the comment section below some of the players that you're looking most forward to seeing throughout the course of minicamp as we get closer to training camp, etc., etc. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining me. We'll catch you next time. As always, bolt up and stay frosty. Watch out, baby. Oronde Gadsden, can you imagine? That'd be such a huge weapon.